Is the Bitcoin freedom revolution over? Individual Bitcoin ownership peaked in 2024, and it's falling fast. Data shows that the majority of Bitcoin will be owned by governments and institutions within the decade. One of the greatest investors of all time says that Bitcoin isn't a store of value, and he wished it never happened.
Crypto?
I said this a long time ago, and I'm going to say it again. It's a solution looking for a problem. I'm very sad that it ever happened.
The former UK Prime Minister says it's a giant Ponzi scheme. With all these negative narratives out there, is it time to get out of Bitcoin? Were you sold a bag of goods? Is Bitcoin actually a Ponzi scheme? Or is it showing signs of life with gold below 5K and Bitcoin ripping to 74? We'll cover that and more today in our episode of Bitcoin Simply. Let's go.
So do you think they'll have to print more than they did in response to COVID?
Probably just because of the exponential nature. Because not only do you have to print to solve today's problems, but you have to pay back the other debt as well. And so obviously, if you take a look at the amount of U.S. Treasuries outstanding, which is a good chart, it's exponential. It's an exponential chart. And so we're just getting started. If you think about if AI is as good as they say it is, I don't know, then everybody loses their job, right? And I don't think it's going to be that way, but that is sort of your North Star in terms of like, well, how bad would that be if everybody has now been replaced by a robot or Claude bot? How much money do they have to print? The banking system essentially is completely kaput, so they have to print everything, right? So again, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's just sort of a mental model of like what could happen if AI is as good as they say it is.
They have to solve the problems of today and pay off the debt for tomorrow. Arthur Hayes believes that the government will have to print more today than they did in COVID. But we've heard this story 100 times. And if that's the case, Dante, then why isn't Bitcoin pricing that in? Why hasn't it exploded in price? Couple reasons. Bitcoin is actually pricing in the creative destruction that AI is going to cause massive disruption to white-collar jobs in the future. The rest of the market just hasn't figured that out yet. Andre Karpathy, probably the greatest AI developer and researcher in the world, just came out with a shocking report. He scored every job in America based on its likelihood that AI would replace it. He used a scale from 0 to 10, and the average score was 5.3, meaning a majority of jobs are going to be wiped out. But here's what it said. If you're a plumber, you're more likely to keep your job than an analyst. If you're a janitor, you're more likely to be around than an executive at a high-powered consulting firm. Scary stuff. And Bitcoin is actually sniffing this out. And the next two reasons are slightly different. The promise of AI and the future of AI has sucked up all of the excess liquidity in the world. Hundreds of billions of dollars, even trillions of dollars in capital is being poured into data, energy, and infrastructure related to AI. With all of that liquidity going into this future possibility, it's not going into things like Bitcoin. And why is gold being bid up when Bitcoin hasn't? Well, it's because the United States has shown that they will weaponize the system and cut you off completely if you don't align with their interests. So in that world, in that scenario, what else can you hold other than gold if it's not dollars?
What do you think is holding Bitcoin back right now when the debasement trade is being recognized more? And it seems like everything's going into a bear market against gold, and we hoped that Bitcoin wouldn't be one of those assets, but it really has been.
I mean, my theory is that Bitcoin is a liquidity alarm, and there's a massive deflationary time ticking bomb under at least the United States in particular, just because of how flexible the labor market is, based on AI disruption. And Bitcoin is, along with some other technology-related stocks, is giving a forecast of there is a massive amount of credit destruction that's going to happen in a highly leveraged, thick fractional reserve banking system. If the highest wage earners who now a small percentage of the highest wage earners don't have a job anymore because they got fired for cost cutting reasons because AI could do whatever they were doing better, faster, cheaper. So I think that's what Bitcoin is telling us. There has not been enough dollar liquidity created against all the other uses for liquidity, especially when you talk about CapEx for hyperscalers. And that's why Bitcoin has underperformed over the last, call it 6 to 9 months. Like if you look at, NASDAQ's pretty flat. Bitcoin's obviously down 50%. Gold continues to rise. I don't think gold is on a debasement trade. It's more because if you're a sovereign nation and you hold dollar assets, you've been, repeatedly reminded that those are not your assets. You exist at the behest of Scott Bessent or whoever as the U.S. Treasury Secretary, and they're number one going to inflate away your debt by issuing a lot of bonds, or they're going to steal your money by basically sanctioning you. And so why would you want to own that asset with your country's savings you should own gold. And that's why central banks have been buying gold in an increasing amount since 2008 and accelerating in 2022 when US and the EU stole Russia's money.
All of these things are going to lead to inflationary measures in the future. And we're going to find out there's nowhere to hide other than in assets that can't be inflated, hard money assets. But even still, Harry Lloyd, aka Prime Minister Boris Johnson, says that Bitcoin's a giant Ponzi scheme. This tweet got community noted into oblivion with over 4 million views currently. His former finance minister was like, bro, calling Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme is like calling the internet a Ponzi scheme because it continues to get more users. People are realizing that fiat or government money creation out of thin air is the real and true Ponzi scheme. Michael Saylor said the truth. Bitcoin has no issuer, no promoter, no central actor. It's an open, decentralized monetary network that's driven by code and market demand. That's what it is, and that's why Bitcoin was created. It was actually a check and balance on central bank trust and money printing in general. But like every market and every revolution in the past, something is misunderstood before it's priced in. Like cars, like radio, like airplanes, like the computer, like the mobile phone, like the internet. And as a result, people are selling their Bitcoin. But given the state of the world and the arrogance of leaders, instead of admitting the lies, admitting the wrongs and the sins of our past, we plunge further into lies and destruction, further into propping up a system that doesn't work, that disadvantages the people furthest away from the money printer for the people that are closest to it. We'll paper over the losses instead of admitting the system doesn't work. And this is why they will print. Ego, arrogance. All of this will lead to inflation. And that's why we need an asset whose total value is inflation divided by 21 million.
From what I've seen, silver and platinum outperform, and gold outperform Bitcoin this year for sure. Maybe he's right. I don't know. I think Bitcoin has a long way to go. I think I've always looked at Bitcoin's final price to be inflation divided by 21 million. And what's inflation? That's infinity, right? Like infinity divided by 21 million is infinity essentially. And it seems to be the fastest horse in the race. So I think it'll continue to go up. It might dip below $100,000 though. I wouldn't be surprised.
Are you still buying Bitcoin right now?
Yeah, actually the last time I bought it was a couple weeks ago. I bought it at like 115,000. I just bought the IBIT ETF.
Before we go any further, let's thank our sponsors. Ledn allows you to never sell your Bitcoin. That's what the rich people do. They don't sell assets that are valuable. They borrow against them. And that's exactly what the individual can do at an institutional grade with Ledn. Borrow against your Bitcoin without selling it. Get access to fiat liquidity in your account in less than 6 hours. The application takes just 2 minutes and there's no credit checks. It's either you have the Bitcoin or you don't. Your Bitcoin, when you post it to the platform, is hosted on a wallet that you can see in the platform that doesn't move and doesn't change and isn't rehypothecated. That's why you can trust Ledn. They've been doing this since 2018. They have over 1,000 5-star customer reviews, and they've issued over $10 billion worth of loans. Don't sell your Bitcoin. Go to learn.ledn.io/simply to get started. One of the ways that you can continue to grow in your journey is by getting a coach from the Bitcoin way, who will walk you through step-by-step how to custody your Bitcoin, how to run your own node, how to be your own bank, and how to manage your own private keys. Don't outsource your future and your wealth to someone else and say, I'll trust them when the rubber hits the road that they'll do the right thing for me, my family, and my money. That's why you've got to be prepared with Bitcoin. Schedule a meeting with a coach at thebitcoinway.com/Dante. Let's get back to inflation for a minute. We've seen the inflation of everything. Let's take homes. The income needed to buy a typical U.S. home has increased by 79% in the past 5 years. Wages didn't increase by 79%, and neither did productivity. And this is why life becomes more expensive. Inflation is literally just the excess money in the system floating around chasing fewer and fewer goods. Listen to this clip from Milton Friedman from 50 years ago.
Now, the first step toward understanding the cause of inflation is to recognize that it is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. It's always and everywhere a result of too much money.
There's too much money in the system, and that's why it needs to go somewhere. And right now it's going to AI. They believe that that's the most scarce resource in the world. But what AI is actually creating is deflation, the ability for a computer to copy, replicate, or create something that you've worked hard for at the click of a button. Bitcoin is pricing in that creative destruction, and because it hasn't gone up in price like people thought, they're selling it. Are you going to be one of the people selling the only thing that can't be replicated, copied, or recreated in this new future? Energy will become more abundant, but Bitcoin will not. There's so much corruption in our system, so every time I see a politician or a rich billionaire talking about Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme, I know it's because they've benefited tremendously from the existing system. And Bitcoin is the first and only legitimate way to remove those people or this system from power.
This is rules for thee, but not for me, sort of a situation. Like, you look at all the corruption in the Congress and Senate right now, how much the net worth of all those guys has gone up, guys and gals, once they get elected. And I scratch my head and say, okay, you guys are going to continue to implement the Bank Secrecy Act on us and continue to lock down on us not being able to spend any of our validly earned money, and going to crack the whip on all of us. And at the same time, this oligarchy that we call our Congress and Senate is just going to continue to line their pockets, and nobody's going to look at that. Like, it's just the hypocritical nature of all of it is just so absurd. And I think that as Bitcoiners, the best thing that we can do is just opt out.
The best thing you can do is opt out to continue stacking Bitcoin while the other system continues to grow. If you invest in AI, you're making the thing stronger that's actually going to wipe you out. That clip was from the CEO of SAS Mining, Kent Halliburton, who's teaching you different ways to opt out of the system. Don't sell your Bitcoin. It's not a Ponzi scheme. It is the exit ramp. Nobody loves buying insurance until you need to file a claim, and that claim is coming soon. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking. And like we heard words from the CEO of SAS Mining, one of the ways to opt out of the system is by mining Bitcoin. It not only continues to decentralize the Bitcoin network, but it allows you to stack sats continuously. But you don't have to manage Bitcoin mining machines or electricity or contracts or repairing machines in the middle of the night. No, you outsource that to SAS Mining, one of the leaders in Bitcoin mining hosting. There's no contracts, no middlemen. They're 100% Bitcoiner aligned, and you can trust them. And that's why we work with them on this show. Use the QR code to get started with SAS Mining and to opt out of the system. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.